Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show, Wednesday, August 57th edition. At this point, it feels like it's the 57th day of this is a never-ending month of August. I'm ready for the NBA season. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, we've got NBA stuff to talk about today, but am I wrong? Does it feel like this August has just taken forever? Like, how is it only the 21st?
Yeah, I think we got spoiled last year where we had at least semi Damian Lillard update, at least once per week or so. And then that was like, well, if this team trades for him, then what happens with this guy? And that sparked a whole round of stuff where we're back in a very normal August. And it's just it's kind of a wasteland. But we got a little bit of news to get into, some couple fun topics to discuss, and then we'll kind of go do whatever it is you do in August, I guess. I will tell you, I am going through an absolutely killer round of writer's block right now.
Oh.
I basically had a piece completely finished all about the Orlando Magic. And when I was self-editing, I was like, this is all garbage, and I just deleted the whole thing. Because I was so it's between the writer's block and the self-loathing. I feel like a real writer right now.
See, it all rolls up to our general thesis. August sucks. That's what it all comes down to. That's what it is. Keith, for the longest time, September has been for whatever reason, September has been my least favorite month of the year. I think it may be August. I don't know. You ask me again in a few weeks when we are actually into September, but August, not good. And I'm blaming August for your writer's block as well.
I appreciate that. I'll say this, at least when it's September, you're like, there's NBA next month, right? Like you can now honestly say that. Right now, it just feels so far away, even if it's only 2 months away. It just still feels like it's forever.
All right. Before I get too depressed, let's get into the news here. Let's go here. The New York Knicks, Julius Randle and the Knicks are not rushing contract extension talks. Why? Why not get the Knicks? They took care of business. Mikal Bridges, bringing him in, getting the deal done with Jalen Brunson, who very graciously decided to take less money than he potentially could have if he had done a deal later on. They've been getting stuff done here in New York. Why not take care of Julius Randle right now?
My guess is it's probably let's see how this all looks. OG Anunoby's under contract long term. Brunson's under contract long term. They're obviously, after everything they invested to get Mikal Bridges, they're going to sign him long term. Those are your three real building blocks. Randle becomes kind of the swing piece. If he comes back and fits in fine with those three guys, and then Mitchell Robinson or insert whoever at the center position, you're probably feeling pretty good about keeping Randle and re-upping with him. If Randle doesn't fit in or things feel a little weird in that, then you're probably thinking, all right, that's either a trade piece or let this just kind of play out, and we'll see where it goes in a year or two with that. My guess is that player option right now for 25, 26, I would say pretty good bet he picks that up, just because it doesn't look like a great free agent market for the teams that have cap space next summer. Not that you couldn't still work out a sign and trade or something like that, but my guess is he's probably going to pick that up. So if you're the Knicks, it's a little bit of a wait and see approach. And if you're Randle, you're probably okay with that too, versus, hey, let me lock in then to a deal where it's really just going to be designed that I get traded at some point down the line.
Yeah. Now, if you're Julius Randle, looking at, again, that player option probably winds up, getting picked up, like you said. So it's not maybe as dire of a situation. Would doing an extension, though, let's say the Knicks are concerned about trade flexibility. If they were to get an extension done now, what kind of an impact would that have on the ability to trade Julius Randle during the season?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on how much, right? Yeah. Because that's what triggers the various restrictions. It all really depends is, does the extension extend past the terms of what an extended trade would be? If it does, then that triggers a 6-month trade restriction. That obviously takes us past the trade deadline, as we don't know from the Lauri Markkanen situation. So that's where he could very much put himself in a spot where he can't be traded. That's the same as LeBron when he did his extension, right? Was signed his and he was past the tradable point. So now with Randle, that becomes all right. That's the real question. But I don't even know if he would get beyond the terms of a extended trade. I don't know if that's where they would really be feeling like where they need to go with him. So I don't know. I'm kind of thinking there's room for an extension and then the shorter trade restriction, and then he would be tradable. But we'll see. I really don't know what to expect out of this one. But I kind of think this is one that probably goes past the season. It probably goes into the off season, and then it'll either be he opts out, does a new deal, like a full new deal, opts out, does the extension then, or just picks up his option and extends off that. There's a lot of flexibility for both him and the Knicks here.
I am still a resident of Randall Island. And even I, though, question the fit maybe with New York. I think his mentality, the physicality he brings to the game, the attitude he brings to the game does fit with this team. But I do wonder sometimes if he just needs the ball in his hands too much in order to be effective for this team, given the pieces that they've got on the court right now. So I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to Julius Randle, to the Knicks in general. Of course, they're a team I'm going to be keeping an eye on, but Julius Randle, how this fit works out, because it's possible that they get part of the way through the season and they say, you know what, this just isn't quite the fit that we want, and let's explore the trade market and see what we can find. And I don't know how robust the market would be, but certainly I think the biggest question mark in the Knicks starting five right now is Julius Randle, and where do things go with him? So a story that we'll continue to update as we move into the season. Please get here sooner, NBA season. But let's jump over to the
Hold on, let's stay here for a second, because I want to I really
up to top more Knicks.
Glad you brought that up with Randle in the fit part.
Oh yeah.
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're thinking about teams is just collecting talent, right? And if the talent doesn't fit together, it doesn't really matter. You're not building an all-star team. You're not even building the Olympic team. You're trying to build a team that's going to fit together. And there's a world where this fits really well for the Knicks, and they really look pretty good. I assume their starting group opening night, assuming everybody's healthy and they're all still there, will be Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
But that pushes Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, who both started large chunks of last season, to the bench. Now there's a world where that's great depth, right? You're coming off the bench with those two guys, Deuce McBride, and then you have right now Precious Achiuwa as your backup big man. That's pretty good, right? I'm feeling pretty good about that 9-man rotation if I'm New York. But how many nights is OG Anunoby going to be okay with 6 to 8 shots? Yeah. Because Randle, Brunson, and Bridges are all getting there 15 to 20, because Randle's used to getting almost as many shots as he wants. Brunson did that last season after Randle got hurt. It really became his offense, and I don't think you're going backwards on that. Then Mikal Bridges for the last season and a half has really been the guy in Phoenix. So everybody's going to have to sacrifice some here. And sometimes guys sacrificing, it's not even about their willingness to do it. Sometimes it's they're willing to do it, but then they're just not as impactful of a player because they're not seeing the usage. They don't have the ball as much. And I do wonder about that a little bit with Julius Randle. Like, if you're running plays where Julius Randle's just kind of off ball, not that he's a bad shooter, but I don't think anybody's overly stressed about that. You're going to be having the help kind of come from him, because you can't really help off Mitchell Robinson because he's just going to stand in the dunker spot all game long. So there are things to be worked around here for the Knicks, even if I think I'm more on the side of it'll probably be okay. I am very curious to see how this all comes together beyond the things like Hart and DiVincenzo coming off the bench and maybe lessened roles and those sorts of things.
Well, and you talk about OG Anunoby getting 6 to 8 shots a game. Like, obviously there's a lot more to his game than just what he brings on the scoring side of things, but you're not paying him to take 6 to 8 shots a game. You're paying him money that says he should get a significant amount more in terms of offensive opportunity, or in terms of the slice of the offensive pie. He should be getting a much bigger piece based on how much you're paying him and how much you committed to him. Now, Julius Randle, the second highest paid player on the team, he's going to deserve a big slice of that pie too, just based on the finances. But I do think that OG is the more locked in guy. Like, yes, this is our core piece we're building around. Julius Randle, I think, is going to fall a little further down in the pecking order. So It's going to be interesting to watch. I think the Knicks are going to be really good this year. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm excited to see this team play. But that I think for me, in addition to, does Tom Thibodeau finally figure out a way to play guys more than 48 minutes in a regular game, in a non-overtime game? That, of course, will be the eternal struggle. But aside from that, I think this is probably the biggest question mark hanging over this team right now. It's how do you fit in Julius Randle? What does the shot distribution look like? And then, and how does it all kind of fit together?
Yeah, in kind of I know you're being facetious to an extent with
Yes.
can Tibbs find guys more than 48 minutes, but in a very real sense, you cannot be playing a bunch of guys 40 minutes. Like Josh Hart and DiVincenzo cannot be getting 7 or 8 minutes each, right? Achua and McBride, that's fine if that's where they're at in the regular season. I hope this gives Tibbs the sense of, all right, you know what? I don't need to run everybody into the ground. I have legit 9 guys that can really play. I also like Keita Bates-Diop too. So you could even maybe work him in the mix a little bit too there. I think we're probably now going a little further than Tibbs will want to go. But yeah, if I just play my 9 guys and I play them all a good amount of minutes, like you could really keep that the miles off guys as you get into season. Because for the Knicks, this is no longer about, hey, it's just cool to have a nice regular season and win around in the playoffs. You're trying to win multiple rounds and go deep into the playoffs here. And you're going to need these guys in April, May, and maybe even into June if things go really well.
All right, let's jump over to the Phoenix Suns. And Tyus Jones reportedly chose starting with the Suns over more money. Now, this is something that I don't recall if there was a report that said it or if we just kind of assumed that this was the case. But this has been the belief that we've been operating with since he did pick the Suns. But now we've got more confirmation that, there was more money out there. But essentially what Tyus Jones is doing is betting on himself. He is believing that a starting job with a Suns team that projects to be pretty good is going to lead to a better contract next summer. And so the starting job in Phoenix on a minimum deal, the reason why he took that was to get a bigger payday next summer on his next contract. So we'll see if that does pay off. What do you think about the gamble for Tyus Jones here? And do you think we'll see more of this in the NBA as we saw the way the free agent market played out for guys this season, especially under the new CBA? It seems like some guys who maybe in the past money would have been there for them didn't find themselves in that situation.
Yeah, I think if teams continue to be so stingy with the mid-level exception, where guys are going to have to take minimum deals because there's not going to be anything else for them unless they just re-sign with their teams on a deal that maybe they don't want to be there anymore. As far as the more money for Jones goes, it was Ian Begley of Sportsnet New York who reported that Jones turned down 2 years, $10 million from the Knicks. And I think that was 10 million total. And that's part of why the Knicks pivoted to campaign to come in and kind of be their third, fourth point guard, depending on where you see Tyler Kolek this season. So, yeah, Jones could have more money there. Presumably there, he would have stepped right into the backup role. But we just talked about it. How much you're going to play behind Jalen Brunson. And those two guys can't play together. That you're not going to be big enough in the backcourt. So with the Suns, presumably he's going to start. Now, I've seen some stuff. I don't know if you've seen this. People have been speculating, right? And people are putting together I'm going into the season, putting together depth charts and all that. There are people who keep putting Bradley Beal on the bench for the Suns. There's no way. That's not going to happen. My assumption is it's going to be Jones and Beal, then Booker and Durant, and then Yusuf Nurkic. Now, you're a little light on defense there because you don't have Royce O'Neal in the starting group. You're a little undersized, but they'll make it work. And then maybe that might be one where we see some subs pretty early on. And that could be a way to really stagger and balance Beal, Booker, and Durant. Kind of maybe you take Booker out early and then you bring him back and kind of say, all right, now you've got the offense with the second group and you're going to run things. But I think that's going to be up to Mike Budenholzer really to figure out. Yeah, if you're Jones, I would say this is worth it. Because if that Knicks deal was what was best, that's about double-ish what you would have made. But if you're feeling good about the amount of money you have, go play it out and have a much bigger role in Phoenix than you would have had in presumably any of these other places.
I think when we're talking about that, like could you make the case that the Suns are actually better off with Royce O'Neal in the starting lineup and Bradley Beal coming off the bench? Sure, you could make the argument. I mean, we were just talking about this with the Knicks, right? It's not just the names on the roster. It's not just throwing the top guys on the floor. It's how all the pieces fit together. And of course, we always go back to the old Manu Ginobili being the sixth man for the Spurs. Was he six-man quality? No, of course, he's starting quality. But that was what fit best with that team. So I think you can make an argument for it, but that's also an extreme that you have to jump to in order to go there, because reality is that in today's NBA, starting still matters to these guys. It's a source of pride. It's a status thing. And I think it is much easier if you are coaching the Suns right now to just stagger things, right? For Coach Bud to just stagger things in a way that still maximizes your lineups rather than say, hey, Bradley Beal's going to come off the bench. Because not only is that you have to get past, Bradley Beal, hey, are you okay with coming off the bench? I know you've always been a starter and all of that. Now you're going to make this sacrifice for the team, but you're going to get questions about that constantly throughout the year. Anytime something goes wrong, maybe should we try starting Bradley Beal? That's going to continue to be a talking point.
Yep.
Whereas if you just start him, which is what everybody expects, what his talent level suggests, and then you stagger the lineups in a way to still try to maximize Royce O'Neal's impact, even not in the starting lineup, that I think is a much easier, a path of less resistance, which isn't always a bad thing. I would be shocked if they made the leap right now and put Royce O'Neal in the starting lineup over Bradley Beal for all those reasons.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also think it's not all about the salary, but you're going to be like, you just put a $50 million player on the bench. Right. And that's going to be like, why did we trade for this guy in the first place? When, let's face it, that question's already being asked, right? So then it becomes, now it's being asked with that layer of $50 million bench guy. Now, I think there's a world where Bradley Beal could maybe extend his career 3 or 4 more really good productive years if he was in a 20-minute a night bench role in the regular season, which, let's face it, he maybe would be one of the more overqualified guys for that kind of role ever in NBA history, and he'd probably be unbelievable in it. But I don't think that time is now. The other part is, I'll be very realistic. This is probably going to sort itself out with missed time. Beal misses time every year. Durant tends to miss a little bit of time. Booker has missed time the last couple of years. So I think we're in a spot where this will all sort itself out and they'll figure it out there without Budenholzer having to go to extreme lineup decisions or anything like that. Maybe by the time we get to the postseason, maybe then it's like, I got to have another defender on the floor. And we that's where we have to separate playoffs from the regular season in some of the lineup decision-making that happens in those cases. But yeah, for now, you just kind of move forward with what you got. But yeah, for Tyus Jones, I like the fit. I think he's going to have a pretty good year there. I think, for him, it's as simple as get him up the floor, get him into something, and then make open shots, because he should see plenty of open looks and with that amount of talent around him.
He's a very low mistake point guard, always has a low turnover number, high assists. His assist to turnover ratio is always one of the highest in the NBA. So I think for him, it's just going to be a matter of, as you said, getting them into their sets. And then what a security blanket it is, right? To say, hey, if something breaks down, here you go, Devin Booker. Here you go, Kevin Durant. You guys create something out of nothing. And knowing they can competently do that night in, night out, I think that Tyus Jones is going to have, I don't want to say an easy job, but it's going to be night and day compared to what he was dealing with the Washington Wizards last season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. And to add to your point, Suns were 27th in turnover rate last year on offense. So just gave the ball away way too much, way too many empty possessions. That offensive collection of talent, that was their biggest weakness, was turnovers, and some of that points to lack of a traditional point guard. You're running the offense through Booker, Durant, and Beal without somebody to just make things a little easier on them. And one of the things I noticed that they struggled with at times was this simple act of getting the ball up the floor and getting into something before you've already used, a third or half of the shot clock up. So that's where I think Jones will really help them quite a bit there. And that's where I think having Monte Morris on the bench, that's also going to be huge for them too, because now you've got kind of two guys who historically have been very low turnover, very low maintenance just easy, good ball security guys that can get you in your stuff, make open jump shots when it comes back to them. That's huge. I think I've been going through, right. This is a good time of year to, you're kind of, where do I have this team? What do I do? And I keep finding myself nudging the Suns up in the West. And I'm going to tell you, they're the team I'm going to be wrong on again, right? I'm going to be there. I think you said it in our last show or the show before. You're kind of out on picking the Bucks again, right?
Yeah.
Like you're over it. I'm probably going to be one more year on the Suns. My team I'm out on now is the Clippers for very good reason.
I was going to say, is it the Clippers?
Yeah, finally I'm out on them. But the Suns will kind of take their place because I don't know, I kind of believe in the talent, and I like the moves they made this summer. I think they have a chance to be pretty good this year.
All right, so they may wind up being the proverbial team that should be better than they actually are. They have plenty of upside. Obviously, they've got great,
Sure.
Their top three is fantastic. I like Nurkic a lot. He's fit with them pretty well. We'll see. We'll see what Coach Bud
Grayson
can
Allen,
get out of them.
Yeah. Shooter.
Correct.
Getting Plumlee to back up Nurkic, I think, is pretty good for them. I mean, as does our buddy Bryce Simon. I love Oso Iguodala, their second round pick. I think he's going to be a rookie who's going to probably play a lot. I think there's a chance he's playing over Plumlee as the backup 5 before the year is out.
Is that maybe when I went to Royce O'Neal, assuming that they were going to bring in somebody to guard wings? Should that have maybe been where we went instead? Grayson Allen replacing Bradley Beal in the starting 5?
Yeah, I mean, you could, right? I don't know that changes enough.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I think you would want to get another bigger defender in there, which would be Royce O'Neal.
Agree.
But Allen did start for this team all year last year when they went without. And let's face it, even though they have Morris and Jones, they're probably going to play some lineups without a point guard in there, right? They'll probably play some lineups. But the difference is playing some lineups without that versus all your lineups without that. That's a pretty big difference.
All right, let's jump over to the New Orleans Pelicans, who have signed Javonte Green to a 1-year deal. What do you think about this pickup for the Pelicans? I know there's some kindred feelings here between my Lakers and the Pelicans right now. Both teams going, we still need a big. What is going on here? What do you think about this addition, and what does this solve for the Pels, I guess, is my question.
Yeah. I was a little surprised they gave him sounds like a fully guaranteed standard contract. I thought this might be a partial or maybe even a camp deal. That's what he was on a year ago. I like it from adding another athletic wing for the Pelicans. I think Javonte Green is one of those guys who it just feels like he's been waiting for his right spot to really make an impact. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, the Pelicans have had really good success in the past with guys like Najee Marshall in this role. Yes. Like that's somebody he's not as big as Najee Marshall, but that's kind of who he is as a replacement. But there's already a wing logjam on this team anyway. You have nothing but wings and forwards here. You've got kind of one real point guard in DeJounte Murray, and then I know Alvarado, but he's clearly the backup. And then your center position's a little weak. You just don't have a lot of depth at that spot. So I'm not entirely sure where Green will fit in.
Right.
But if we're assuming there maybe is another deal coming, he's a nice depth piece to already have in place as you go into the year.
Yeah, I think that's it. It doesn't solve the issue they've got in the middle. They are pretty stocked on the wing already, but in terms of talent, is he a good player? Yeah, I think he's a player that could help a team, and maybe there's a move coming. Brandon Ingram could still wind up getting traded sometime before the trade deadline. Maybe that's a likely scenario that we see play out. They've got plenty of depth on the wing, so maybe this is just insulating them in the event that they do move on from one or more of their wing players. So we'll see where all that goes. Again, I think it's a worthwhile 1-year deal. I'm not going to fret over a 1-year deal in general. I just think if you're a Pelicans fan right now, you're probably thinking, great, but we still don't have who is going to play center for this team? What are we going to do here? How is this going to work? So I think there are still moves coming for the Pelicans, but again, I can't complain much because I think Javonte Green's a good player. He just doesn't solve the biggest issue that's staring the Pelicans in the face right now.
Completely agree. For those who aren't super familiar with Javonte Green, too, he's lost a little bit of his athleticism as he's aged and he's had some knee issues. But have you ever gone to his Twitter account?
No.
If you go to his Twitter, his pinned tweet is he is standing under the basket, stand still, and he does a between the legs dunk. Just stand still. It's great. I don't even know if you could pull it up on the show here. I don't know if it would play it or not. Let's see.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Let me
Super impressive.
Here. Let me try. All right, here it is. Hopefully this will work because this is just a screen share here. Let me give this a go.
Oh yeah, it looks like it's working.
Okay. Stand still from the ground. Ooh.
That's ridiculous, right?
And that's with a FIBA ball.
Yeah.
That he's got.
Yep. Yeah, this is insane. Like, that's how athletic he is. Just standing. For those only listening, go Google Javonte Green, or you look him up on Twitter. His Twitter is 2X, like the letter X, stream bounce, 2 extreme bounce, and he is super duper athletic. So I've been a Javonte Green fan for a while. He went to summer league with the Celtics, and since then I've been rooting for him.
Keith, my you might like to follow section on X here. After looking up that, it's recommending that I go follow Zach LaVine.
Nice. There you go.
Speaking of which, did you see he had a pretty nice dunk in a workout video?
I did not.
Yeah,
good for him.
It was a few days ago, but it was like a reverse through the legs dunk.
Good.
Not quite that like that wasn't. He was the one that blew out the birthday candle in the dunk contest, wasn't he?
Was it him or Aaron Gordon? It was one of the two. But anyway, I mean, they had that incredible dunk contest.
That was it was amazing. But so it wasn't like he was, looking down at the rim like one of those types of dunks. Yeah. But he still got up, and so it was good to see from Zach LaVine.
That's great. Yeah, there's also been some videos of Lonzo looking like he's moving pretty good too, and he gave some quotes the other day just about how like he's like, I just want to get back. Like I want to be on the floor. So good for him too. But a little messy in the backcourt in Chicago now because Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu, but that's for them to figure out.
All right, let's jump over to your Boston Celtics, who are for sale. There were rumors going around. I believe it originated from Bill Simmons. I could be wrong.
That's where I heard it.
Okay. And saying that Jeff Bezos from Amazon, the Amazon founder, would be interested in potentially buying the Celtics. Now we've got a counter report saying that no, that's not true. He is not interested in buying the Celtics. And I think the most striking thing about this for me, Keith, obviously we'll follow the story and ultimately who's gonna purchase the Celtics, what's that's going to look like. But isn't this kind of the dream for all NBA fans right now? Right, is that whoever your owner is, it's somebody who's got just absurd super villain style money, FU kind of money, and they're just and the team is going to be a toy, and they're not going to worry about spending too much. I think there's that we're seeing kind of that style of owner take hold in the NBA. We've seen, obviously we've got Matt Ishbia coming in with the Suns. Of course, we can talk about Steve Ballmer with the Clippers, who has many, many times more money in the bank than any of these guys. But still, Jeff Bezos coming in, it would be, I think, a pretty good situation for Boston overall to have that kind of deep pockets in terms of ownership, and he'd be up there in terms. I don't even know if he has more money than he's got to have more money than Ballmer, right?
I don't know where it is today, but I know there was an article probably close to a year ago that said he was on pace to be the first trillionaire. So
okay, maybe
it was still several years out, but however they do that stuff, I don't know.
Crazy amounts of money, but bottom line,
more money than he knows what to do with.
Exactly, more money than you could ever possibly hope to spend. What do you think about this type of what kind of owner are you looking for the Boston Celtics coming from that perspective?
Yeah, super rich and stays out of the way.
Yeah,
just write checks.
That's it, right?
Yeah, write checks and get handed a trophy at the end of the year, right? That should be all owners in sports is write checks and get handed trophies like that. Just you hire the right people, let them do their job, do the right thing by the community you're in. Give money back into the community, put things back in there. Don't ask for people to pay for your stadiums, like build them yourself. But then just do your thing. Then the stuff that this sparked with Boston, and there's now some Boston based reporters who are like, hold on, like we are hearing he's interested, but I don't really know who to run with on this. Just kind of my thing is, yeah, I mean, if for the Celtics, who project to be one of the most expensive teams in the NBA over the next few years,
Yeah.
this would be great, right? Because presumably he would just write the checks and let them do their thing. The big challenge with the Celtics. The NBA, I know this. Bill Simmons reported this part of it too, and I think has gone kind of the underreported part of this story. Is saying the NBA really hopes the Celtics fetch $6 billion because then that's what they want to ask for the expansion teams. Because what it would really be for the two expansion teams, the idea would be value them at somewhere around $4.5 billion a piece, but then you're paying the like $1.5 billion a piece expansion fee to just be granted a team. And then that means 400 million for the other 30 owners just for saying welcome to the club. So they're trying to push the Celtics price up. Now you're talking about historically, just out of the big four sports, the Celtics are generally them and the Lakers are like side by side as far as NBA teams for most valuable NBA properties.
Sure.
I'm up there, which we all know why,
sense.
right? They're historic franchises are in major markets. We get it. So, I really don't know. But the challenge for them is they don't own their own building. So you're not getting that part of this. When the Mavericks sold, when the Suns sold, they also bought the building.
That's
so
a big
you
deal.
bought the ability to, hey, every concert that comes through, everything else, I'm getting a chunk of that. Celtics don't own the building. The Bruins own the building in Boston. So that's the other thing. But there was rumors already that have come out. If it was Bezos, maybe they build them their own building. Maybe they look at building them their own arena somewhere. Now, I don't know. I start to get a little like, do we really need everybody having their own arena? Like, what are we doing? We're running out of arena space, but I don't know. That's for other people beyond me to say. But yeah, I mean, I'm cool with it if it goes this direction. Anybody but the Fenway Sports Group people. No, that has nothing to do with LeBron owning the Celtics or anything like that. That part I don't care about. It's the fact that they've basically turned around and said, cool, we won a couple titles with the Red Sox. Now we don't need to really pay for anybody anymore. And they trade away every good player when they get expensive. I don't need that being the way they run the basketball team that I root for.
Like you said, write the checks, stay out of the way, and play to win. Now, so I'm looking now. These guys just have so much money that my initial thought was right that Bezos does have significantly more money than Ballmer does. Ballmer's just the richest that we see in American sports, but I mean he's top 10. Ballmer is in the world, wealthiest individuals at least on the billionaire list here. But Keith, if the Celtics do sell for $6 billion, Jeff Bezos has enough money. His net worth is such that he could actually buy the Celtics more than 33 times.
Yeah.
That's his net. Like, how crazy is that?
Unreal. I remember a thing where there was I tweeted this. He was in the booth with Roger Goodell. It might have been like Amazon's first game that they broadcast or whatever. And people were like caption this photo, and it was him. And I wrote Bezos whispering to Goodell, "What if I just bought the NFL? What if I bought all of the teams?" Right. So it's just it's absurd, and it's I don't want to go down a whole other path here that our show's not about. But I mean, as far as sports fandom goes, buy the team and just write checks. Like, let's go. Like, I'm all for it because the fear obviously for Celtics fans is somebody's going to come in and be like, yeah, right. No, break this up. This is too much. And that's what that's what everybody's kind of worried about.
And that's where, and now again, I believe the new CBA, which was aimed directly at Ballmer and at the Warriors, and it tried to make sure there were now significant competitive disadvantages to spending in order to fight against these, owners that are coming in that have so much money to where it's, oh, I have to pay 300 million for my team because I add taxes in instead of 200 million or something. Whatever, I've got that in the couch cushions. That's when we're talking about guys like
Yeah.
Bezos, Bomber, whatever. Like an extra $100 million is nothing. Is nothing to them. So that's where the new CBA comes in, and tries to kind of take aim at these uber wealthy, owners that come in. But that said, it's still an advantage if you've got somebody where the team is going to be more of a toy, and all they're going to do is write checks, and they can write checks all day and never even feel it. I think there is
Yeah.
an advantage to having that as part of your ownership group. So who knows? Maybe we'll see Jeff Bezos ultimately wind up buying the Celtics. Maybe not. But if I was a Celtics fan right now, I'd be kind of hoping he does.
Yeah. 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 And it's funny because then they were like, he's not even a Boston guy. Like, and almost none of these guys live where they own their teams. Like, that's pretty rare anyway. And I wonder if the NBA was like, hey, we'd rather have you buy the Seattle expansion team. Right. Because I think that's where he is in Seattle, I think. But who knows? So.
All right, let's wrap up with this. Imani Bates back to the Cavs. Keith, I did not see what this deal. I'm assuming it's a
Two-way.
1-year deal. Oh, it's a two-way. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming it's a 1-year deal. Wasn't sure if it was a two-way or a full spot. I don't recall if they actually have a spot available though.
They do, yeah. They actually have a couple of them still because they're still waiting on Isaac Okoro. Isaac Okoro,
That's right.
As an aside, Bates and Okoro were the only two restricted free agents left on the board. Bates, presumably, we haven't seen just yet, but presumably signed his qualifying offer, and that's how he's coming back on another year on a two-way. The Cavs also signed JT Thor, who's one of the standouts for South Sudan this summer in the Olympics and the lead up to the Olympics. He is also going to be there on a two-way contract. Normally, we don't spend a ton of time on the two-way guys, but the reason I'm calling this out is I think Imani Bates will be off a two-way contract by the end of the season and on a standard deal with the Cavs. I like him. He's somebody who, if the name is like, why do I kind of remember this guy? He was a super duper high recruit when he came in. He went to Memphis initially, did not work out there. He transferred to Eastern Michigan, played out the year, and then he got drafted by Cleveland. He had a nice year in the G League, not super efficient, but big, rangy wing, good size, can get a shot off. Looked pretty comfortable in summer league getting his shot off. I think a little more seasoning in the G League. He's the kind of guy I think you could see pop onto a standard contract for a few years. And given the Cavs don't have a ton at the small forward spot, that's like the number one spot where they just don't have a ton of depth. I think you could see him eventually fill that, much like we've talked about Vince Williams Jr. and Gigi Jackson in Memphis. Bates could be that for a Cavs team that is starting to get really expensive, much like the Grizzlies are in Memphis. So I think there's a lot of parallels to the way those two teams have been built and are building back.
He was not. You pull up his regular season stats from last year. It was not great, but did have a pretty good showing in the G League last season. Averaged 20 points per game, 6 boards. Now G League stats, take them with a grain of salt. Shot 35% from 3, 34.6, only 39% from the field. So the shooting percentages need to come up. But again, he's got talent. There is real talent here, and I think that's a good call that he will ultimately wind up on a full contract. And probably why we're seeing this two-way deal now is he feels confident as well that he can eventually play his way onto a full contract in Cleveland, and so take this two-way deal and then play your way off of it.
Yeah, it took 283s in the G League last year for a 6'8", 6'9" wing. That's pretty good, and a lot of those were self-created threes too. So I'm intrigued at least. That's why I wanted to bring it up. He's still pretty young kid. He's only he'll turn 21 at the end of January. So yeah, we're still talking about a guy who's figuring some stuff out. So
right.
I'm excited to see what he kind of develops into and becomes here for Cleveland. I do think there's a chance we see him pop eventually, because I think Okoro, we have to be getting really close to he's either going to take a very team friendly long-term deal or he's just going to sign the qualifying offer and then get back at it next summer. And I like Isaac Okoro too.
I do
For
too.
what it's worth. I think Isaac Okoro is a little underrated. I think he's improved as a shooter every year he's been in the league. Pretty solid defender, can really defend two through the smaller fours, the more perimeter-based fours. He can really handle those guys too. I'm a big fan, so I would be trying to get him signed, but I get it. If I'm the Cavs, it's like got a lot of money in Mitchell and Mobley and Allen and Garland. Like something's got to give somewhere, and that could be where Bates slides in as a guy for a couple $1 million a year. Comes in and maybe gives you some minutes off the bench, maybe and could start for you eventually.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, everybody, that's going to wrap things up for today. Make sure you subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show here on YouTube. Check out the Basketball Bulletin as well. I'll drop the link to that in the description down below. We'll be back, at the very least, we'll be back on Friday, right? For Front Office Friday. We'll see how news is looking tomorrow to do a Thursday show, but we do appreciate all of you guys. Make sure that you do, again, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, see ya and stay safe.